What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to Ep.6 of the Highly Advised MMA podcast, part of the Highly Advised podcast. And before I introduce my colleague, the right-hand man, the Gustavo to the Pablo, I would like to tell all the listeners, all the viewers, all your siblings, and all your family members, all your distant cousins, your mothers and fathers, baby mamas and baby daddies. Please follow us at the Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram, Advise Highly, on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast. Now, with the silent drum roll, I'm going to introduce my homeboy, brother from another mother, from another mother, from another father and brother, Nigel Relaxing Jackson. I wish we had the little sound bite with like applause or something. So we gotta start getting. Yeah, we gotta start getting that on podcast.
Yeah, I'll put something in there for the listeners. What's going on? It's Relaxing _Jackson back for another week of MMA. Coming in here and getting ready to, speak the gospel of mixed martial arts to the people for the week.
Okay. So before we start talking about a little bit of MMA for the week, is there anything you would like to let the people know? Because, something special happened to you over the weekend.
What's that?
I don't know. This is your moment. The floor is yours, my friend.
Nah, I don't have anything for the listener.
Yeah, are you sure?
I'm sure.
Going once?
I'm good.
All right. So you heard it here first, listeners and viewers. If you want to know what happened with Nigel this weekend, you probably just got to send him a DM. He's just a little, he got a little stage fright. So let's go ahead and move forward to the topics this week. Before we talk about the trilogy that happened over this weekend, I wanted to actually just bring up something real quick about Francis Ngannou. He was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Hawani, and he was just talking about, obviously, he's talking about things going on with John Jones, the promotion, and what's his next plans. But one of the interesting things that he said is he might sign to PFL or he might sign to ONE FC. And I just wanted to get your quick thought on that before we move on to the next thing.
At first, I wasn't necessarily sure if him going to, I would guess, either of the organizations would be the right move. I think that him going to ONE FC leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think there's any heavyweight contenders over there that would necessarily make for interesting fights for Francis Ngannou. PFL, there might be like one or two fights for Francis that I think that would be good for him. Otherwise, outside of that, that's really the biggest problem with him fighting MMA anywhere else. At least in PFL, maybe he can fight two people, give them time to build up another contender for him to fight down the line, or maybe a couple. But I think him fighting outside of the UFC at the least would be beneficial for fighters' rights.
Okay, so how do you feel about the UFC, not the UFC, excuse me, the PFL supposed super division where they're going to have super fights and stuff on pay-per-view? Do you think Francis could thrive through there?
I mean, sure, but I think that's more or less for, hey, we need to give the champion somebody else to fight that's not somebody in the tournament. You know what I mean? Because we want them to fight multiple times in a year. There's not the people who they want Francis to fight are already in the PFL. So that pay-per-view division probably wouldn't do much for him unless there's some random fight, let's say a boxer wants to come over to MMA or something like that, which I don't think that's necessarily going to happen there.
Okay. So where do you think Francis is going to sign? Do you think he'll go to PFL? Do you think he'll do ONE FC? Or do you think that he'll do what everybody hopes he does, is come back to the UFC?
Of course, I hope he comes back to the UFC, but I see him more than likely going to the PFL because I think they're more willing to give him at least most of his demands, if not all of them.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, moving on to the next thing. Before we recap this weekend's fights, let's do a little preview for next weekend's fights. So, listeners and viewers, the next fight card that's happening is a fight night. And as I look at the exact number, UFC on ESPN 43, if you care about that. But really, the main event is Marlon Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, the Sandman. So this is kind of a big fight for both men because for Chito, I feel like this is a fight that can have title implications if he wins. And for Sandhagen, he might not get the title shot, but he'll have a chance to fight like in the title eliminator. That's what I'll say. Same with Chito, but I think win with Chito, it would put him right at the title. But of course, there's a big logjam going on at bantamweight right now. So I think this is an exciting fight. I think listeners and viewers should tune in. Far as a quick pick for my end, I am picking Chito Vera by decision. I think he will be able to get it done in 5 rounds. I don't think this fight will be easy for neither man. I think it will be pretty competitive, and I also think that we're going to get a nice, fun fight on the feet. Nigel, what you think?
I think that this fight is going to be pretty interesting. Me personally, I see Chito Vera having the advantage on the feet because of a little bit of speed. And also, I think he's been starting quicker, like in these last few fights. Every fight, he's been starting a little quicker and seems to be getting on his bike a little faster. So I think that's been beneficial for him. I think he could take the fight. I'll say probably by decision. And I think it's going to be a competitive fight, though. There's a couple other fights on the card. You got Chidi Nikajawani. He's coming back on here trying to get back in the winning column. So I'm kind of interested to see that. The Macy Barber fight against Andrea Lee. I want to see that fight as well. I think that could be a good little scrap. And Holly Holmes trying to, get back in there and build herself a little bit of a streak, if I'm not mistaken. I think she's working off for one win right now.
I'm not. I would have to look up her record real quick to double
she's working
check
off a loss, so she's trying to get back in the win column.
I know that her opponent Yana, I guess it's Yana Santos now because I think she married to Diego Santos. He's the latest PFL signing. She's coming off a loss for sure, and I think this fight here for either woman is going to be beneficial for them moving forward because they're both in desperate need of a win.
So, I guess with that being said, you want to move into the fights that just happened over the weekend?
Yeah, I guess so. We could do whatever you want, man. This is your show. The people pay to see you.
The people pay to see us speak the gospel of MMA.
I understand.
So let's just start off with the main event. What do you think of the main event? You had Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman in the rubber match, and Leon Edwards took the decision. What was it? A majority decision against Kamaru Usman?
Yeah, the scores. If I'm looking off top of my head, I believe it's 48, 46, 48, 46, 47, 47. So the majority decision for Leon Edwards. My thoughts on the fight is I think the fight was actually pretty good. It was competitive. It was a close fight. There was definitely some swing rounds in there. I feel like for the people who thought Leon won, 5-0, 50-45 without the point detection, I don't agree with those people. I don't agree with the people who thought Leon won 4 rounds to 1 either. I'm noticing that there's some MMA analysts and personalities kind of retracting their initial scores, and they're saying, "Oh, hey, after rewatching the fight, I realized it was actually a lot closer." Some people thought it could have been a draw. I predicted that Kamaru was going to win by decision, but of course, my prediction was wrong. But when watching the fight live, the way I scored it was 48-47 for Kamaru Usman, or 3 rounds to 2, because I have to keep remembering the point deduction. And in the third round. So I gave Kamaru Usman the second round, third round, and fourth round. That second round was pretty close, but I thought Kamaru landed. I thought he was more busy, and I thought he was just a bit more effective with his striking and his grappling in that round compared to Leon Edwards. Now I get it, Leon landed like a nicety up the middle, but I feel like that one strike compared to everything else that Kamaru Usman did in that round doesn't kind of equate Leon winning the round off that. Obviously, the third round was the round where Leon was like cheating a bit and he got a point taken. And I felt like he just kind of lost his momentum a little bit in that third round. But that fourth round was pretty close. I think the fourth round was a real swing round. I think that I gave Kamaru that round, but of course, that round was kind of split amongst the people. Some people gave it to Leon, some people gave it to Kamaru Usman. I think the definitive clear rounds that Leon Edwards got was the first and the fifth. The fifth was more, in my opinion, the fifth was more clear for Leon. The first is could be a little debatable because not much happened in the first. But the reason why I gave it to Leon is because he was the busier fighter. He had more activity within his strikes. Leon Edwards' game plan in that fight was a smart game plan. I just don't necessarily think I was the biggest fan of it because if for real MMA fans, and Nigel, I know you're one of them, but way back then, years ago, probably a decade ago, maybe a little less, maybe a little longer, there was a fight for the light heavyweight title. Shogun versus Lyoto Machida. Machida was the champion at the time. The Dragonair. He was a puzzle that nobody could crack. He just got done beating up Thiago Silva and KOing Rashad. And he beat Tito Ortiz. And people are like, oh, this is his mythical dragon, And then Shogun, kind of gave him a competitive fight that first time. We're to the point where a lot of people thought Shogun won. But the reason why Machida won is kind of the same reason why Leon Edwards won. Machida utilized a lot of kicks, and most of the kicks were leg kicks. Most of Leon Edwards' strikes in the fight were leg kicks. Now, I get it. The name of the game is not slugfest and blood sport. But I just think that it was a very smart game plan for Leon Edwards and his team to concoct. And I think that it's what they needed to do if they were going to win a fight against Kamaru Usman. I wasn't the biggest fan on the leg kicking game plan, but at the same time, I know he did what he had to do, and I'm not upset that Leon Edwards won because that fight was pretty close. I think what's next for Kamaru Usman if he's not decided to retire? I think if he wants a title shot again, right away, then he needs to probably fight maybe Bilal Muhammad if he's not booked for anything, Shavkat if he's not booked for anything. Who's another top 5 guy that could probably get a fight? Give me a name of a top 5 guy. I mean, they could do the Kobe trilogy, but obviously Dana White already said Kobe's going to be fighting Leon.
I think that's the fight that makes the most sense, honestly.
What, the Kobe trilogy?
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's a few fights around there that Kamaru Usman could do. I didn't say Hamzat because I think Hamzat is going up to middleweight for his next fight.
What about Stephen Thompson?
Yeah, you could do that fight. If Usman wants to tune up, yeah, you could do that. I think that's a tune up fight for him. I just think that if he isn't going to be retired soon, he's probably on his way to retire.
Right.
Within the next couple of fights. What I think next for Leon is if Dana White, is able to actually make it happen, it will be Kobe, unfortunately. But if Leon has some say and he's going through negotiation, the battle with the UFC, And if Leon is able to get what he desires, he'll probably be the winner of Birds and Masvidal. I know he really wants the Masvidal fight, and I get it. 3-piece of the soda, but yeah, that's probably what he's looking forward to next. I talked enough. What do you think about the main event?
So what I think about the main event was the fight was really close. Initially watching the fight, I scored the fight. Honestly, I scored the fight every round for Kamaru Usman. So with the fight being, a competitive fight and it being scored the way it was, I felt that I should go back and watch it again. So the second time I watched the fight, I scored it 48-46 Kamaru Usman. But the fight was very close. It was a competitive fight, and Leon Edwards did have a good game plan in order to stop Kamaru Usman from getting too close to him to take him down. I thought the fight was more or less of him point fighting the first time around. The second time around, I watched he connected with like some cleaner shots, specifically in the first and fourth round. Those are the rounds that I gave to Leon Edwards more or less any. With the point deduction, he got a 46, not a 47. But I mean, the fight being 48-47, still very close because like you never know like what with a fight like that, how other people are gonna see it. So
Right.
I mean, you got to give it off to Leon Edwards. Give your hat to Leon Edwards. Like he did his thing, went in there and performed. Kept Kamaru Usman away. Tried to set up the leg kick, the head kick, like a couple times, but didn't really connect. Kamaru Usman definitely was like prepared for that.
Yeah.
But caught him clean with a couple knees and with some shots and just throughout the fight. So as far as him fighting Colby Covington. I think that's not the fight to make. That just doesn't make much sense. He hasn't fought for what 2 years,
No,
like
over a year.
over a year.
Yeah.
Like there's been other people who have been fighting multiple times within that time. I got to give Ariel Hawani some credit because like sometimes I'll not necessarily be the fan of his opinions, but this opinion I could agree with in that saying that Colby Covington taking time off and suddenly jumping line to the front just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. There's decent contenders for Leon Edwards to fight right now, multiple contenders that he can fight right now. And you have a champion in a different market in the UK, which you don't have many of those. So you can go and make somewhat of a star of if you put him in the right matchups or just around like with some of the, I would say, more fresh contenders in the division. And I just think that makes the most sense to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, you don't run the UFC, so of course people are going to look at you, look at your opinion, my opinion as well, and just scoff at it. But listeners to viewers, this is what we think, and we believe that Kobe Covington doesn't deserve the next shot at the belt. But if he gets it, then hey, what could we fucking do, right? Except for watch the fight.
Of course,
But,
I'll watch it. I want to watch it still.
All right, so moving on to the co-main event, we have the obvious fight of the night. Could be an arguable fight of the year contender. Justin Gaethje, he defeats Rafael Fiziev by unanimous decision. I believe the scores was 29-28. I scored it 29-28 for Gaethje. I thought he lost that first round, but the last two rounds he definitely dominated. That third round, he looked like if there was a fourth or fifth round, he might have got the finish over Fiziev because he started to connect very clean in that third round. And I was like, damn, Gaethje still got it on the feet. I did say in my prediction that I believe that I picked Fiziev, so of course I was wrong again. But I believed in my prediction that Fiziev would win the fight, but I would not be surprised if Gaethje won. And yeah, he won, and it was very competitive. It was a very fun and entertaining fight. And I think next for Justin Gaethje is to fight Dustin Poirier. Let's do that rematch, like a main event, a fight night, or you can even put that co-main event on a pay-per-view. Fiziev, I wouldn't hang my head so low on him. I think it was a good showing. It's just he wasn't the better man that night. I would say why not give him like the loser of Dariush and Oliveira?
You know, so yeah, definitely Justin Gaethje won this fight. I was wrong on my prediction as well. He even got. I thought he was speaking to you directly because he said, he got the takedown. So anybody talking about his wrestling can, be quiet essentially. So
He wasn't talking about me, man. He was talking about masses of other people.
he said the
That's
critics, like
yeah.
but nah, like
I wish he said my name. That would it would make people want to look us up.
yeah, that's fair. I guess you're right. But nah, like I thought the fight was good. It was a competitive fight. Justin Gaethje was more, I would say, accurate in this fight than I thought he was going to be. Rafael Fiziev, while he had the quickness, it seems sometimes Justin Gaethje was able to work around the quickness and be more accurate and really start popping him with the jab later on in the fight and just the more strong strikes. You got to give him some credit for being able to do that and pull off that in the middle of that fight. Like I think he kind of changed the game plan a little bit, and maybe that was coaching too. But for whatever reason, he was able to pull it off and beat Rafael Fiziev, and I thought it was a good showing from Justin Gaethje. He put in a performance like I wasn't expecting him to put in, and I think that earned him the decision.
Yeah, he did a good job. I got to give credit where credit's due. Like example, like just like with Leon, I'm gonna give it to Justin. He did his thing, and he hate on it. Now moving on to the next fight. Now this fight was a short notice fight, and it was actually on the prelims, but no, it wasn't on the prelims. Was it on the prelims originally?
I can't remember.
Well, anyway, this was a short notice fight. Gunnar Nelson defeats Brian Barberina in the first round by armbar. Now, once again, I'm just going to let the listeners and viewers know. For this card, first time ever, I went 0-5 on picks. I think for the last card, was I 4-1 on picks? I don't think I was 5-0, but I had a really good ratio on the last card. I think I was 4-1 on picks. Listeners, check us out at the Highly Advised Podcast to confirm that. That night I was 0-5 for picks, and I really thought Brian Barberina was going to be able to rough up Gunnar Nelson and then score a late TKO on him. But Gunnar Nelson, he showed he's a man on a mission, and the way he got that armbar just looked like he was just levels above Brian Barberina.
Yeah. Man.
I think for Gunnar Nelson, he has earned himself to fight a top 15 contender, maybe even a low-ranking top 10 contender. Who knows? But his next fight needs to be a ranked opponent. It's time to see if Gunnar Nelson can make a real run at the title.
I wasn't expecting the fight to go that way. Gunnar Nelson went in and dominated that fight as soon as it hit the ground, and it wasn't on the feet for too long for it to really have any effect on the fight. Brian Barberina just looked like he just wasn't prepared for what Gunnar Nelson had for him on the ground. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect the fight to go like that at all. I figured that Brian Barberina was at least going to be able to work his way out of those decisions and make the fight a little bit more scrappy. But Gunnar Nelson went in there and finished it really quick, and I think surprised a lot of people. So shouts out to him for that.
Yeah, good on him. He just shows that, hey, he's not fucking around, and he's on another level. So good for Gunnar Nelson.
So say it again.
No, I was gonna move on to the next fight, the Casey O'Neill Jennifer Maia fight. I was wrong, but I think you were right on this one.
Yeah, I was right on this one. This is the only one I was right on, actually.
I thought Casey O'Neill was gonna. I thought it was her time to shine, but I also said in a prediction, hey, if you can't beat the Jennifer Myers of the world, then you might not be ready for that level. Jennifer Maia just beat her on the feet, kind of controlled the pace of the fight. I think her experience really gave her the edge. Now, there was nothing flashy about this fight, listeners, but this fight right here just goes to show that there is levels between a former title challenger and somebody who's not even ranked. So good on Jennifer Maia for winning. I didn't really notice, but that's back-to-back wins for Jennifer Maia, so she's probably about 2 fights away from probably challenging for a title again, depending on who she fights, of course. Casey O'Neill just has to go back to the drawing board, take it as a learning lesson, because she didn't get finished, which is good, but she did get kind of shut out a little. But I think that Casey O'Neill should have hang her head low, because I believe that she will bounce back from this and be better. The only thing you could do is be better and just learn from her mistakes with the Jennifer Maia fight and work on her craft. And one day we might see a ranking next to her name. But that was just Jennifer Maia's night. She just showed that she had the better game plan. She had the better damn it, I did it again. She had the better she had the better adjustment in the fight, because she also said in the post-fight press conference that her game plan was to grapple, but once she felt like that wasn't really working, then she went ahead and decided to box more, and it worked out for her. So,
yeah, when I was watching the fight, it just looked like Jennifer Maia was just a little bit better on feet for most of the exchanges that her and Casey O'Neill had. It just seemed like you said, she was just better than her that night. And hats off to her for that. She pulled it off. Casey O'Neill, go back to the drawing board, get your shit together, and then come back and then win another fight. And that's all it is. There's other fights that she has at flyweight that she can get into. I don't think she's necessarily, it wasn't the worst loss she could have took, but she, just needs to improve a little bit. That's all that fight says to me. Hey, you didn't get finished. You didn't necessarily get dominated. She was just better than you. She was just better than her.
So let me ask this before we move on to the opening fight of the pay-per-view. Do you think, after watching the Jennifer Maia Casey O'Neill fight, that's still a fight that Tatsumi Suarez should take next if offered to her?
Yes. I think she can win that fight.
Okay. All right. Now, listeners, the opening card, we saved the best for last, depending on if you're a fan of these gentlemen. Marvin Vettori keeps his middleweight ranking position by defeating Roman Dolidze in a close contested bout. Judges gave it to Marvin Vettori. I actually disagree with this decision. I thought Roman Dolidze did enough to win. I scored it 29-28. I thought Roman won the first round, and I thought he won that third round. But somehow the judges, they thought Vettori did enough to win instead. So the fight was close. It was competitive. It had some exciting moments. That was actually the first time I've seen Vettori not be able to attempt to bully someone. Well, no, let me take that back. He couldn't do it to Robert Whittaker or Adesanya, but most Vettori fights, he's the one that's opposing his will. He's trying to bully his opponents, and his striking was never superb per se, but it was good enough for him to close the distance and then get a hold on his opponents to drag him to the ground and do what he needs to do. With this Roman Dolidze fight, however, it was a lot different. And I think Vettori, once he got hit in that first exchange, I think he knew right away, hey, I can't stand in front of this guy and try to box him, because I probably could get boxed and knocked out. I think Roman Dolidze probably has to go back and work on his cardio for sure. And I also think that him and his coaches need to work on his technique as far as striking, because at some point he did keep trying to throw the overhand right and keep trying to throw right hooks. It started to get to the point where Marvin's corner, who's the coach who also coaches Mike Tyson? It's like Rafael Cordero, something like that. Yeah. I guarantee you he was probably like, hey, look, man, you could see the hook and the overhand right coming from a mile away. One thing I didn't like what Marvin Vettori was doing is he kept ducking his head. He kept ducking his head. And he didn't really block while he was ducking. He just kept ducking down. And as you've seen as the fight move along, Roman, he kept throwing. He started to throw that uppercut, and I guarantee his coaches saw that too. He was like, they were probably like, "Hey, look, the uppercut is there. The way he's ducking and not guarding himself when he's ducking, he's bound to get hit." Now Marvin did get hit by a few uppercuts, but it just wasn't enough to like put him away. So I can't get mad at Marvin Vettori for winning. He did what he needed to do to get the judge's decision. I think Marvin Vettori probably should fight Jaden Cannonier next. That fight makes sense for the middleweight division, and that'll put him in a good position. Roma Delezzi, I will probably say, why not give him? Why not give him? You could give him an opponent like Kevin Gastelum, or maybe you could give him who's a good lower ranked opponent at middleweight? Sean Strickland.
Sean Strickland? Yeah, I can see that. Oh, what about the person he just beat in the beginning of the year? I can't remember his name right now.
Who beat who? What are you talking about?
Sean Strickland came in on short notice early in the year and fought somebody.
Oh, that was at light heavyweight. He fought a dude at light heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, never mind. Well, no, Sean Strickland would be a good move. I think Roman Dolezzi did a good fight. I think Roman Dolezzi did a good job in this fight. I thought he fought well, but obviously he didn't win. I actually scored the fight for Roman Dolezzi as well. I thought that his pressure and his forward motion in the fight, along with his striking, was enough to win him the fight. But there was Marvin Vettori being a tough out. He didn't necessarily get dropped or overly rocked like in much of the fight. Even though he did get hit with some hard shots, he never looked out of it. So he was in there and he was performing and putting enough counters in his punches to catch Roman Dolezzi catching in order to win the fight. Hats off to Marvin Vettori for winning the fight. I didn't have him winning this fight. I actually had him losing this fight and getting a finish, but he succeeded. And I think that's why he's able to stay like a constant contender, because he is pretty tough and he is pretty skilled. So at the end of the day, you can't take much away from him.
No, you can't. I always said that Marvin Vettori is a tough out. I feel like no matter what, if you're a fan of him and how he acts or not, whatever. But when it comes to the fighting, the dude he's legit. Any fighter that's fighting him, in my opinion, has to realize, get ready to go all 3 or 5 rounds if it's a title fight. And hopefully you have a good game plan, because the dude, he's not going to just take it laying down. He's going to fight. So he won this fight. Him and Cannonier, in my opinion, I think that's a good fight for him. And I think that's pretty much it for our estimate card, man. Is there anything you kind of want to highlight on the prelims before we wrap up?
Nah, that's about it for me. Like, I thought it was a good card. I'm excited to see this main event next Saturday. And more or less, I'm excited to see the fights that are coming on past next Saturday as well.
So before we wrap the show up and call it a night at this time of this recording, listeners, and before you give out let the people know where they can follow us and stuff, there's a bonus thing I wanted to mention. We don't have to spend too much time on it, just maybe a minute or two. Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. So their fight looks like it might be a reality. Rumor is they might fight at AT&T Stadium, but who knows? Who gives a fuck right now? Last but not least, do you think Conor's going to go through USADA, or do you think he's going to get an exception? This is kind of the big thing right now, and I think that's kind of the big reason why the fight hasn't been announced yet.
So hold on, wait. They're talking about giving him a complete exception?
No, they're not. Nobody's come out and officially said that. That's just the speculation from people who are in the MMA world and community, that this may be a real thing, but nobody's officially said that's what's going to happen. Dana White refuses to comment on it. USADA has come out responding to Conor, but it has nothing to do with him getting an exception. So I think this is kind of an important talking point because even though that Conor already came out and said this fight will be at welterweight, which favors him and gives him the advantage over Shaler. If he's able to go in there and compete without really going through the USADA program,
yeah, that's not a good look. That's no matter how you cut that, it's not a good look.
Yeah, that's it. That's the interesting thing to me about this. It is. Now, I don't think he's doing it because he needs to juice and be on steroids and be like Alistair Overeem. But I think that from what I could understand, I think after the leg break or whatever that he had in the last Poirier fight, part of like the recovery and healing and rehabilitation process, that he had to go ahead and get something like a steroid or PED, whatever, to help heal. Now, I don't know what the legal process is for him to make sure that he's not walking in into fight night in the cage roided up, but this is kind of a real talk. So maybe the listeners and viewers, they might have more insight on it than I do, but I just think it's a little interesting, and I think this is something that probably just kind of pay attention to as the weeks go along. Because of course, anything with Conor, the rules are not going to apply the same to him as they are going to apply to Mike Shaler.
What I'll say about the situation, just to kind of leave it on this note, is the rules aren't the same for Conor, but Conor should still have rules.
Okay. So let the people know where they can follow us, man.
You can follow us at the Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram, Highly Advised Podcast, of course, on YouTube and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us at. And you can find us at Advised Highly on Twitter.
Listeners, this is the Highly Advised MMA Episode 6. We hope you guys enjoyed. If you agree with us, cool. Share our shit. If you disagree with us, cool. Leave a comment why. Tell us why you didn't fuck with our shit. And all we could do is just ignore your comments. So, and we're just going to continue and move on until the Highly Advised MMA Episode 7. So until the next episode, listeners, thank you for tuning in. We don't respect you, but we do appreciate you. In the words of Spence, or in the sounds of Spence, shasha.
Peace.